Why are people calling PulseChain the largest airdrop in history? This is actually because PulseChain is a fork of the Ethereum blockchain. All that means is that the code from Ethereum is being copied over to create a new blockchain. You see, the primary problem with Ethereum is that the transaction fees have become way too high that it's virtually unusable. I mean, imagine spending $50 to $100 just to send money from one person to another. Ethereum is no longer a feasible system due to this alone, and PulseChain is going to be literally a clone of Ethereum, but without the crazy high gas fees. You're going to be able to pay pennies on the dollar to transact and do anything on the PulseChain blockchain as opposed to Ethereum. So why is it the biggest airdrop? Well, because along with cloning the entire Ethereum blockchain, all of the cryptocurrencies that were on Ethereum are also going to be cloned onto this blockchain too. So if you have an ERC20 token, or any token on Ethereum for that matter, you're going to have that token on PulseChain too, as long as you're holding that token at the time of the snapshot for the fork. So virtually every single Ethereum token that exists today will have its entire supply and smart contract copied onto PulseChain. And you can come over to PulseChain and use them or not. I'm sure a lot of communities, a lot of tokens will just totally forget. But any project that finds usage and benefit in paying absurdly low gas fees as opposed to an arm and a leg, well, I think they're going to find PulseChain beneficial. And so you can come over with the same account balances on PulseChain that you currently have on the Ethereum blockchain. Who qualifies for getting the PulseChain airdrop? The answer is really simple for that one. It's anybody that holds tokens in their own self-sovereign wallet. Now, I prefer MetaMask, and there's a couple other wallets out there that lets you hold your own private keys, but you need to be holding tokens in a wallet that you own the private keys to. And I can't stress that enough. Okay, MetaMask is my favorite. It's the industry standard and by far the most popular. So that's what I recommend. As long as you're holding these tokens at the time of the snapshot date, well, after the snapshot date occurs and after PulseChain launches, these tokens will just be on your PulseChain account too. And you'll be able to flip-flop within MetaMask in between the Ethereum network and the PulseChain network. And you'll see an equivalent balance of each ERC20 token on Ethereum as a PRC20 token standard on PulseChain. All you need to do, again, is just hold the tokens in your wallet and simply do nothing at all. As long as you're holding these tokens on a wallet that you own, you're going to get the tokens on PulseChain. Now, I should remind you guys, this does not include exchange wallets. In crypto, there's a saying, not your keys, not your coins. So if you leave your coins on a centralized exchange like Binance or KuCoin or whatever, you're not entitled to any tokens. You actually don't have any rights to those tokens. The exchange can do whatever they want with them. So this is why I really recommend getting your coins off of exchanges and into a wallet that you own so that you can qualify for the PulseChain airdrop. Now, a question that people ask a lot are which tokens are going to be airdropped onto PulseChain. And I want to be clear, it's only Ethereum-based tokens. This includes ERC20s, which are tokens with smart contracts that you typically see in DeFi, but also other token standards like NFTs. As long as they exist in the Ethereum ecosystem and on the Ethereum blockchain, they're all going to be airdropped as part of the PulseChain airdrop. Now, how will you be able to claim your PRC20 tokens on PulseChain? You don't really have to do anything at all. They show up in your MetaMask wallet by simply switching networks from Ethereum to PulseChain network, as long as you were holding the ERC20 tokens on the snapshot date. The snapshot date hasn't been announced yet, but stay tuned and make sure you follow pulsechain.com and make sure you're in the PulseChain Telegram group to get the only official announcements about the snapshot date. More on that later. But claiming your PulseChain tokens is very simple. They will simply show up in your wallet, again, as long as you're holding on the snapshot date. More about the snapshot date in a minute. Now, people want to know which hardware wallets will support the PulseChain airdrop, and I really only recommend the two most popular. These are Trezor and Ledger, but they will work out of the box when PulseChain launches. And there's a lot of useful info about hardware wallets on howtopulse.com. So make sure you head there for more technicalities about hardware wallets like Ledger or Trezor. But if you're an existing user of these hardware wallets, you don't have to worry. Guys, you'll be able to use the same Ethereum application on those apps, and it will work for transactions, swaps, whatever you want to do on PulseChain, just like it works on Ethereum, right from day one. Now, I really want to be clear on this, okay? There's only going to be one launch date / snapshot date. You might hear people call it a snapshot date. You might hear people call it a launch date. There will simply be one day, single day, and a single time in history where PulseChain forks from the Ethereum blockchain. And that's going to happen at a very specific block within the blockchain. Now, you might hear this referred to as the block height or the block where the fork occurs. And this is really the only date you need to be concerned with, where you need to be holding your coins in order to get them on both chains. So it hasn't been announced yet, and nobody knows when it is. If somebody's telling you they know, right now they're scamming you and they're lying to you. There will only be a few channels which will officially announce the blockchain fork date. And at this moment in time, PulseChain will split off from Ethereum. There will be two separate blockchains, and at whatever snapshot of the block height this occurs at, all the coins will be copied from that moment. Again, this hasn't happened yet, but it'll be a single moment in time. There won't be an announcement of a snapshot date and then a launch date separately. These will be the same exact day, as far as we know right now. And beware, because there's a lot of scammers out there and a lot of fake groups online claiming to be the real PulseChain or that they'll sell you PLS tokens. None of that is true. Today is November 17th, 2021, and as of today, there has been no formal announcement about the PulseChain launch date or the snapshot date. And in order to get the only real valid information that you can find out is by going to Richard Hart's Twitter account. He's the founder of PulseChain. Or you can go directly to the PulseChain.com website. That's PulseChain.com. Please do not fall for any phishing websites, which are similar looking websites with a different URL. They're all fake. Make sure you go to PulseChain.com. And finally, you can get official announcements in the PulseChain Telegram group. If you don't have Telegram, it's an app that we use for messaging in the crypto world. Make sure you go to the only legit Telegram group for PulseChain, which is t.me/PulseChainCom. Next, I want to talk about liquidity on PulseChain. Which liquidity pools are being copied over from Ethereum to PulseChain? Anything that already exists on Uniswap v2 on Ethereum is getting copied over to PulseChain's version of Uniswap v2 on the PulseChain from day one. Right? Now, Uniswap v2 is being copied, not v3. v3 has an anti-copying license that restricts people from copying their code for another few years. But v2 works perfectly fine, and it's going to be very similar to what we see on PancakeSwap today on the Binance Smart Chain. So there's a lot of swapping protocols on a lot of different blockchains that are all forks of Uniswap v2, and they work perfectly fine. So along with the code for Uniswap v2 being forked over to PulseChain, all the liquidity pools that exist on Uniswap v2 are also going to exist on PulseChain's version of Uniswap v2. Now you might be thinking, okay, great, all of our tokens on Ethereum are going to be copied over to PulseChain, but what about Ethereum itself? Well, what happens to the Ethereum that you have if you're holding Ethereum in your MetaMask wallet at the time of the PulseChain snapshot date? Every token is going to be copied over in one-to-one fashion, but the Ethereum that gets copied over will end up being PLS token in the new PulseChain network. And that's because Ethereum itself is the primary network token on the Ethereum blockchain. It's what people use to pay for gas and pay for transaction fees and all that stuff. Now, we can't copy the name of Ethereum, right? So we have to name it something else. So the primary token on PulseChain will be Pulse token, abbreviated as PLS. Pulse token will be the equivalent of ETH or ETH or Ether on the Ethereum blockchain. Does that make sense? So if I have one Ethereum in my wallet, in my MetaMask at the time of the snapshot date, I will then have one PLS token in my wallet after the PulseChain launch date. And that should be more than enough to pay for any transaction fees because, again, transaction fees are going to be so dirt cheap on PulseChain that you're barely going to need any Ethereum at all. The existing Ethereum that you have in your MetaMask wallet will likely be enough to pay for all the transacting that you need to do on the PulseChain network. Now, you might hear of a term called Freemium PulseChain or Freemium PLS. All that means is that free PLS will be given to anybody that's holding ETH because the conversion of ETH into PLS will be a one-to-one conversion for anybody holding Ethereum. Now, the people that got into the PulseChain sacrifice phase are going to get much more PLS token, but if you're holding Ethereum, that will be automatically converted into PLS token in a one-to-one ratio when the fork happens. And it's called freemium because in this particular case, with the PLS token in particular, it's going to exist in a use it or lose it type of fashion. Now, if you don't move these coins within a certain time window, you're actually going to lose access to them and you will have to buy PLS on the open market in order to be part of the PulseChain network. Now, there will be more than enough time for you to prepare as long as you're paying attention. So don't worry about this, just stay up to date, but there will be a limited time frame in which you must use your PLS. Otherwise, you'll lose it. That time frame hasn't been announced yet, but this is done to encourage more attention into the PulseChain network, more participation quickly more network effects, and to not reward people that don't care about PLS token, that just want to hurt the price. So this is a very tactical advantage to PulseChain as well. Now, NFTs are a hot topic in crypto. Will your NFTs be copied on PulseChain? Will you see your NFTs? The answer is yes. Your NFTs are all going to be copied from the Ethereum blockchain to the PulseChain blockchain. So if you have an NFT on ETH, you're going to have that NFT on Pulse. Now, people will need to build websites such as OpenSea and Rarible on PulseChain, and they're going to need to fork code from these various websites so that you can actually view those NFTs. Now, whether or not those are ready on day one is to be determined, but I know that people are working hard on forking this software, and you will be able to see and view your NFTs the same way you view them on OpenSea, Rarible, or whatever platform you use today. You'll be able to see them on similar platforms after PulseChain launches. One important question is, how do I bridge assets from Ethereum to PulseChain? How do I transfer between these two different worlds? Well, the answer is very simple. Similar to how there's bridges between various blockchains today, like Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, Avalanche Chain, etc., there's going to be a bridge starting from day one from Ethereum to PulseChain. This bridge is simply a website that with an underlying smart contract where you can send Ethereum coins to lock them there and then wrap those coins in a wrapped version on PulseChain. So if I have some USDC coin, for example, I can send them to this bridge, and this bridge will send that USDC coin into PulseChain. It'll be abbreviated as EUSDC, just to annotate that this USDC came from the Ethereum blockchain. Just like if I bridge something from the PulseChain back to Ethereum, it will be abbreviated with a P. So for example, if I bridge some HEX from PulseChain over to Ethereum, that HEX on Ethereum will be abbreviated as PHEX, just to annotate that it came from the PulseChain network and it's wrapped on the new chain. So depending on where the coins originated, Ethereum or PulseChain, you're going to have these little abbreviations when you bridge tokens back and forth. Now, how can you best prepare for the PulseChain launch? Well, again, guys, it's really easy. You simply have to do nothing at all, and all the tokens that you currently hold at the snapshot date will be copied from Ethereum to PulseChain. Now, if you want to set yourself up properly for this launch and take advantage of it, I personally think it's a good idea to buy HEX, and that's because HEX is the primary reason that PulseChain was invented in the first place. Anybody can go to PulseChain, anybody can build on top of it, just like anybody can build on Ethereum. But it was originally intended to save the HEX holders and the large, extremely rapidly growing HEX community from crazy high gas fees. And so the HEX community are going to be among the earliest adopters of PulseChain, which means that the most trading activity will likely happen on HEX shortly after PulseChain launches. Not any other token, simply HEX, and maybe the PLS token itself. So although you can gear up and get any Ethereum token you want, my opinion is that HEX will be the most valuable to get now because it will be the most highly active starting from day one on the PulseChain blockchain. So again, if I buy 1,000 HEX today, I will have 1,000 HEX on both chains after PulseChain launches. 1,000 HEX on Ethereum and 1,000 HEX on PulseChain. Now, obviously, the prices of these will be volatile and level out over time to be a standard single price. But if you believe that the sum of the two parts will be greater than the price of HEX pre-fork, then you could potentially make money this way. Again, I don't have a crystal ball and I don't know what the price will do. I'm not a financial advisor and this is not financial advice, but in my opinion, the best way to prepare for the PulseChain launch is simply to buy HEX, hold it, and then get a copy of that HEX on both chains. Now the final question that everyone's asking is, how do I get my hands on PLS token? How do you buy PLS token? Well, you can't buy PulseChain just yet, okay? There was a sacrifice phase that happened in the past. It happened months ago. And if you didn't get involved in that sacrifice phase, you missed it. So sacrificing money to the sacrifice address now will get you an extremely lower rate than the earlier people that got in it during the formal sacrifice period were able to get. Again, in my opinion, I don't think it's wise to sacrifice any money for PulseChain now. I simply think it's wise to hold HEX at the time of the snapshot and maybe swap some of your HEX for PLS token in the early days after PLS launches. So swapping coins for PLS after launch or sacrificing right now are two ways you can get PLS. I don't recommend the sacrificing method at this time, like I just told you, but be careful because anybody out there that claims to have a PLS token is trying to scam you. PLS does not exist right now. so you cannot buy it from any exchange at this time. I hope you learned something from this video. This video was made for howtopulse.com, and if you want to learn more, there's some great blog articles on howtopulse.com. It teaches you all about HEX, PulseChain, security, how to buy HEX, how to make money with HEX, and how the whole system works. So really familiarize yourself with this website. It's legit and it's purely informational and free. Thanks, and I'll talk to you on the next video.